Hey, what's up? MKBHD here, and this is the brand new Galaxy S22 Ultra. I've been using it for about 2 weeks now. The bottom line here to understand this phone the best really is like if you took the name off of this phone, what Samsung is giving you for the money is a Galaxy Note. But the phone that I'm reviewing and using is called the S22 Ultra. Let's get into it. So the word Ultra in Samsung's lineup has basically come to just mean the highest ambitions, the biggest numbers, the best specs, and the most features overall. It's just that now the Ultra name has swallowed up the Note stuff too. So Note used to be that one special edition phone with the squared off design, the flat top and bottom, and the pen built in. Now that's just all wrapped up into Ultra. And the S22 Ultra does not miss a beat with all the Ultra stuff. They're packing in the highest end chip they can. That's the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 here in the US with a massive new cooling solution alongside it. The RAM is technically down from last year. The base model has 8 gigs and all the rest have 12. And there's no more 16 gig version, but I honestly don't miss that. I can't imagine someone really needing 16 gigs of RAM in their phone right now. But you absolutely can go up to 1 terabyte of non-expandable storage though. But this display is also excellent. It's a huge 6.8 inch 1440p AMOLED at 120 Hz with a 240 Hz touch sample rate. And the big new number is a max brightness of 1750 nits. Now, on the one hand, I don't want to overreact about 1750 nits. Like, it's a big number, but brightness works on a logarithmic scale. So this 1750 is not dramatically brighter than the 1500 max from last year's S21 Ultra. These phones are all very sunlight readable. But I do still want to give Samsung credit for continuing to improve an already best-in-class display and making it even better. It's still got the same great ultrasonic fingerprint reader as last year right under the middle of the screen and still has a hole punch camera in the top middle. And it's an LTPO2 panel now, which means in addition to being really responsive, it can drop that refresh rate as low as 1 Hz when there's nothing moving on the screen. Really, my only dislike with this display is the curve over the edges. So if you look at this phone next to last year's S21 Ultra, obviously these phones are different shapes and the displays are actually slightly different resolutions. And this new shape definitely curves more over the sides, which I don't like as much. Other than that, this is an awesome Ultra display. And we all know it's not an Ultra without a massive battery. So yeah, 5,000 milliamp hours should do the trick. Now, interestingly, there are some tests online showing that it doesn't last as long as last year's 5,000 milliamp hour battery. And you can see Arun, Mr. Who's the Boss, did a variety of things in his test and found the S21 Ultra did last a bit longer than this phone. And to me, when I see that, I'm like, okay, there's a variety of factors that can contribute to that. 1, the slightly brighter display. 2, a little bit more of a power-hungry chip that runs hotter in the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. But generally, my battery experience has been very, very good. I actually never killed it in a day, never really got anywhere close, easily ending heavy days with 30-40+% battery left and could extrapolate about 7 hours of screen on time out of a charge, which is great for me. I know screen on time is different for everyone, but it's been great. Plus on top of that, it does charge a bit faster than last year, up to 45 watt peak charging if you buy that $50 optional brick. So I'm glad they fit that big 5,000 milliamp hour cell in here, despite also adding the S Pen, which takes up a whole column along the inside of the phone. But speaking of that S Pen, that's what's new, the Note stuff. Now, I'm personally not the biggest S Pen user. I think I say this every time I review a Note. Like, I think I signed 1 PDF last week with it, which was really convenient, but you know, I did it once. And I used Samsung's handwriting recognition in the Notes app. Super cool that it works really well and you can search what you've written. And I just enjoy that it still clicks a lot like that. So it is definitely impressive. I still think it's the best stylus in any phone, and it's literally got all the features the last Notes had. Smart Select is nice for screenshots and annotating things. Lock screen quick notes are still super convenient if you use Samsung Notes. And it even still has that long distance Bluetooth connection that lets you use the button on the S Pen to remote control take photos without touching the phone. And the new display brings latency down from 9 milliseconds, which is already pretty good, all the way down to 2.8 milliseconds, which to me basically feels like real time. You know, I'm not an artist who's doing massive drawings or extremely precise sketch work with the pen. It's just casual writing. And so the fact that it uses AI to predict where the pen is going to go and starts drawing those pixels slightly ahead of where the panel is actually registering it is pretty next level. So to me, this is as close to one-to-one as it gets. But at the end of the day, if you see all of this and you're like, I still probably won't really use any of it, then you can just slot the pen right back into the phone and never use it. It's out of the way, and the phone didn't make any sacrifices to include it. So, okay, here's a bunch of other smaller things that I noticed from using this phone every day that you should too if you're planning on getting one. So the speakers are excellent. They get very loud and sound crisp and clear like last year, some of the best in any smartphone, so that's great for watching media. But then the display curving more over the edges than last year makes it worse for watching videos. And then the vibration motor, this is a small thing, but I mentioned it also in the S22 review. They changed the type. So it went from a Z-axis vibration motor to an X-axis vibration motor. Doesn't sound like much, but it changes the way it feels. So it feels just as strong and precise and clean for typing or swiping or holding it in your hand, but it's way less strong when it's on a desk or in your pocket. So I literally miss phone calls with my phone sitting right in front of me vibrating on my desk because I didn't hear it or feel it. Then the camera rings. So they're a bit of a controversial design, sure, but like most designs, you kind of get used to looking at it, but you never, ever fully get it clean of dust. So if you go caseless like me, not only does the phone sit kind of funny on a table, but there will also always be dust between the camera rings, so just get ready for that. I would actually recommend, if you get a case, channel sponsor Dbrand just dropped their Atomic Edition grip case, and it doesn't do a huge cutout all the way around the cameras like I thought we might see in my impressions video. It actually just matches the camera rings, and it looks way cleaner, and it's just deep enough to protect the cameras if you drop it. So this is definitely the way to go. You can check it out at the link below. Then this phone, just like the other S22s, shoots 8K video at 24 FPS. You know, the wrong frame rate. Give us the option for 30, Samsung. Just put it in the settings somewhere. But even worse than not having the 30 FPS toggle, it actually crops in way more than the regular S22s. So it turns out shooting 8K is 33 megapixels, and it's actually cropping in to the middle 33 megapixels of this huge 108 megapixel sensor. So when you switch to 8K, you zoom in to what feels like about 2x, which is pretty inconvenient for framing. No 8K video from the ultra-wide or the telephoto lenses. This is a bit of a downside. And then there is absolutely still some shutter lag with this main camera, more than the regular S22s again. And this is understandable with all the processing happening, but it definitely felt like I was missing some shots or having trouble capturing moving objects because of the bit of a delay between the shutter press and the actual photo being taken. But speaking of cameras, let's just get the camera stuff out of the way. It's funny because this is probably what most people actually come to these review videos for, if you think about it. If you watch a smartphone presentation these days, 75% of a new phone presentation today, especially a flagship, is camera stuff. So that's one of the biggest things that differentiates these phones, and on a $1,200 phone, it's one of the most important features. So how is it? Well, you can see they went with basically the same layout of the set of cameras as last year. It's a 108 megapixel primary camera, the ultra wide, the 3x telephoto, and the 10x telephoto, plus laser autofocus. And they're not the same exact hardware as last year, but they're pretty close, and that's a good thing. And Samsung's not messing around with their cameras. These are definitely flagship quality, and I'm really happy with them. Matter of fact, I don't even have much to say about image quality because there really isn't much new here, but there are some new features within the camera modes that might sort of unlock some new things and be different about this phone. So I'm gonna go over those with you one by one. So first, the more accurate portrait mode. Now, I think I tweeted a couple months ago, sort of ruffled some feathers, but I said something like Samsung has the best like portrait mode on smartphones right now, and I understandably ruffled some feathers, but I should clarify. Basically what I mean is their cutouts have been the most consistent and the most accurate of portrait modes among smartphones that I've seen. So that doesn't mean the blur is the most natural or the fall off is the most realistic. I just mean they make the least errors with like ears and hair and shirts and stuff. And so this year they're planning on, well, they've announced that they're doing it even better. They've got AI stereo depth mapping for portrait mode that they claim can cut out things as small as a single human hair, which would be cool. It's not exactly accurate, but they say it's better. So I still found it to be really good, but it's definitely not perfect. It still misses some stuff sometimes. But I stand by my statement. These cutouts and depth mapping they're doing is really, really good. The portrait mode shots especially look good with the 3x lens, with people, with pets even, and also with inanimate objects. It still does a good job cutting stuff out. Again, not perfect. You'll pretty much always find some error in every smartphone portrait mode shot, but Samsung does a really good job. I think the 1x portrait shots are good to have, but they don't look as natural. So I hope Samsung works on the naturalness and fall off of the background blur to overall make it the best portrait mode. Then there is night photography, which Samsung has called nightography. Okay, so I compared the night mode shots to the iPhone 13 Pro, which also has an excellent camera, and my biggest takeaway is, yes, Samsung's night mode photos are definitely more detailed, 100%, but they're also dramatically brighter. As advertised, they're letting in a lot of light, and the photos in the dark look like you're taking them in a lot more light than you actually have. Especially look at the sky back there. So it's impressive, but it's also a bit of a preference thing. Some people want their nighttime photos to look like they're at night. But then lastly, there is an Expert RAW app separate from the camera app that can take raw photos, that includes multi-frame computational photography data, HDR and everything. And the differences are subtle, but they absolutely do allow for more latitude when editing. So photographers should definitely grab this app from the ugliest app store I've seen in a while, the Samsung Galaxy Store. So I'm gonna end it with this. Typically the big question with a review, at the end of the review, you're like, well, should I buy it? Is it worth it? And this is an expensive phone. It's $1,200. So that's a big question. So basically, I think their mission was accomplished. The fact that they combined the note stuff with this phone makes it easier to separate from the regular S22s. It makes it a more obviously different phone in the lineup. So if you just want like a standard, really good flagship phone, big screen, nice battery, nice cameras, all that stuff, the S22 Plus is a great phone, and it's $200 less at the starting price. But if you want some specific extra things like the super high resolution display or the S Pen or some of those camera tweaks, then that gives you a reason to upgrade, and it does deliver on those extra things. Now that being said, I am sticking with the Galaxy S21 Ultra as my main daily driver phone. Obviously, people who have this phone don't need to upgrade, but it's just basically the same phone as far as software, battery, cameras are almost the same, performance is the same, but with a design that I prefer and a vibration motor that actually notifies me more often. But yeah, overall, this phone is good. It delivers. If you want a little bit of a more in-depth look at the One UI 4.1 software and the fact that this phone, at least this lineup with the S22 for Samsung, seems to be basically the default Android experience, more so than Google's Pixel ever could be, definitely watch my S22 review. I'll leave a below like button if you want to watch that real quick. But that's been basically it. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys later. Peace.